My next guest on Dolphin Tales, it is head men's soccer coach Mauricio Ruiz. And Mauricio, it's been a while. I mean, it feels like this time of year we'd be in quite a bit of contact to discussing the season, maybe some broadcasts, things of that nature. But of course, with the wild cards that have been thrown in, the season getting postponed to the spring, it's been a little bit longer than usual. But how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well, thank you. And you're right, it's been a while. It's good to be able to talk about our team again. Seems like everyone just been kept to themselves a little bit to be able to work on the things that they can't control. So it's nice to kind of come together and start reviewing what we've done so far and a preview of next year, which is nice. But doing well, thank you.
Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and get right into it. Let's talk about first and foremost, all the way back. I know we try and kind of quash that a little bit and forget about how tough it was back in the spring as much as we can, especially now that we've been able to move forward a little bit. But when you found out that you were losing the spring with your team, that you weren't going to be able to have that springs aspect of the season that you all have to play a couple other opponents and get better ahead of the fall season, what were you able to do even with your student athletes at home to try and continue what you all have done over the last several years now of building and growing this program?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and obviously the March, we just didn't come back from spring break, and the larger part of our spring season is post spring break. We get to play a lot of competitive matches. We had something that we started with all the Florida Division One schools, which was the Florida Cup, initiated for the first time in this past spring. UCF, UNF, Stetson, Gulf Coast, FAU, and FIU, we decided to make our spring a little more competitive than just those typical friendly games that we might play against Division two opponents and NAIA opponents, which are always really competitive. But we decided to start a Florida Cup. So all the 8 Division one programs in Florida finally came to an agreement. We divide up the state into 2 different regions. So we were excited. The players were really excited, just to give our spring a bit more of a meaning rather than just those those kind of exhibition games. Um, so we got to lose that, but in perspective, in compared to the spring sports, they got to lose their entire season. So I think we were still very fortunate that we got our fall season in, and the spring was an opportunity for us to grow. And with the NCAA changing some of the rules of contact over the summer, we were able to be creative with our athletes as far as being able to meet with them more, obviously on Zoom. I think everyone's a Zoom expert now,
Yeah.
including our students. But we were able to get creative and separate the group into divisional groups. We got our defenders in groups, the midfielders and forwards. And what we decided is to try to mirror or learn from what we think is a style of play in a team out there in the world that we think we could emulate or we could get a lot of good examples from. So we decided to do that with Bayern Munich really early in April. And we started studying Bayern Munich, and we broke Bayern Munich down, and we had a lot of those individual groups. It ended up that Bayern Munich, went out to win the Champions League, which was kind of a cool culminating thing for us, that our players were able to follow them all the way through. So we did a lot of that. We did a lot of kind of keeping them tactically connected, because we couldn't do that obviously at the end of the season. And then we just spent some more time with the players as much as we could, calling them, seeing how they're doing. Really more at one point when lockdown really got heavy on everybody. We just really want to know how their welfare were doing, how their families were being impacted by this. What could we do to possibly help them? And then little by little start talking about what the next step was going to be.
You bring up what an awesome way to keep the guys engaged and get creative with things. Soccer, one of the first sports internationally that was able to come back. The Bundesliga was maybe the first major team sport anywhere outside of probably Korean baseball, followed by the Bundesliga. We're probably the first 2 sports that anybody saw anything of. And so the ability to take advantage of that, I was going to ask you just about how much soccer you and the team watched during a lot of the shutdown there, but it sounds like you all were pretty locked in on the various leagues as they came back over the course of the late spring and into the summer.
We did, right? Because a lot of our students now, they'll go over the summer. They typically go and play on some summer league teams, USL League Two and NPSL, and a lot of those leagues were shut down for the majority of the summer as well. So a lot of them couldn't work, they couldn't play, they could train. Some places where they're still restricted as far as ability to go outside and train. I mean, this seems like so long ago now, but many parks were shut down, many teams were shut down. So I think engagement with the guys was key. And then so when sports worldwide, when soccer worldwide started coming back, it just really gave us an opportunity to start connecting a little bit more, kind of throw that bench around. And we know we have guys that support Arsenal and Liverpool and Chelsea and Man U. So it's just a cool way for us to, it's a good example of how sports can really do bring us together. So we try to utilize that as much as possible, but at the same time, we gave players the space that is required. We try not to do too much, otherwise they felt like it was just an assignment or something that they needed to do. And we really wanted to create an environment that they want to do it, they want to engage with their teammates. But certainly was a challenge for everybody, players and coaches.
Good year for the Liverpool guys.
Very good year. Very couple of good years for them.
Yeah. I want to go back to the Florida Cup real quick. What a great idea. Unfortunately, obviously, it gets set up. Doesn't happen last spring. The way that the schedule is being set up, we'll get to here a little bit more in a moment, but obviously with your regular season being played in the spring this year, it's on hold. So is this something that is just sort of on the back burner until things settle down into a little more of a regular routine again, and you'd revisit, or what's the future of this potentially really cool concept for spring ball?
Yeah, I think for right now it's on hold, right? I think the adaptability has been the word here. Flexibility, the NCAA maximum flexibility has really been the key word that they're trying to instill amongst all of the levels and all of the teams. So that's on hold. That's something that we've been talking about for a couple of years, and we finally got the right people in place at some of these schools that were excited about that opportunity. But it was just a fill-in, right? I mean, we're more excited about the prospect of being able to play a spring season while limited in games. And, I think we're all anticipating some interruption, hopefully not many. But we're just excited to be able to kick somebody else and be able to compete, outside of our own team.
All right. With that being said, what does look different about the spring schedule this year versus what you would normally be playing in the fall? And of course, we'll head this off with the caveat of asterisk, subject to change. Of course, we know that nothing is set in stone these days, but what does it look like for you all from a competitive standpoint when it comes to scheduling?
Sure. So typically in the fall semester, you get 20 competitive regular season games, and you can break them up into 3 exhibition games. So which will leave you with 17 regular season games. That's allowable. The thing this spring has been a lot of institutional decisions as far as how many they're comfortable based on some local and state governance, as far as travel, overnight stay, and obviously budgetary concerns as well. So we've decided to stay local. We're going to be able to, if we're able to fit into the schedule, around 11 to 12 competitive games. That includes 6 conference games. So what the ASUN has done amongst many of the sports is create 2 divisions, a North and a South division. So us being in the South, we're fortunate to have Stetson, UNF, and Gulf Coast. So we'll be able to play a round robin in conference. So we still get 6 conference games. We'll just get to see, we'll have the Riverside Rumble twice in 2 different locations, which would be nice. We get to play Stetson, and those are 2 drivable games for us. And then we'll have the one-off overnight stay at Gulf Coast. So those are 6 games. So then it's really trying to find 4 to 5 other non-conference games that are regional to try to fill in that schedule, to try to get to that 10, 11, possibly 12 games, and then qualify for the postseason and then get an extended schedule at that point. So, if all goes well and everyone's planning to be in the postseason, right? No one starts the season not thinking they're going to be in the postseason. Mm-hmm. We can still arguably get 14 to 16 games, if we make a good run into it. So we'll be squeezed in a little bit. But I'll tell you what, I think I'm excited, and the players are excited not to play in 100-degree September Florida weather. I think it'll be a little bit cooler. We're going to play some mid-afternoon games, so it'll be different. But I think we're going to try to make the most out of it.
And that's a fascinating aspect of it, too, in the fact that, yes, normally with the season starting in August into September, even into October, it can be pretty miserable weather-wise. And I know that you have a lot of Florida guys, a lot of guys from down in Central America and South American countries that are probably used to warmer weather, but still playing in some cooler temperatures. It's going to be nice for you on the sideline, at least, right? You're not going to sweat so bad.
Yeah, it'll be well received. I'll tell you that. And then, and also, you're not dealing with storms as much. Mm-hmm. I mean, one thing that we deal with constantly, late August, early September, That's why we have to play evening games, because we kind of have to try to get out of that, that 4 or 5 o'clock, afternoon summer weather that in Jacksonville, in Florida in general, just brings in that heavy lightning clouds. And so I think so. Those will be the silver linings
Mm-hmm.
for sure. What I'm excited is the fact that we got to work, and we still work, and we have 2 weeks left in the fall training season. But it's been a neat experiment for us to be able to actually have our entire team and work for 2.5, nearly 3 months. The one caveat is that we don't have outside competition to test our growth, because that's always important to know where you stand. We do play inter squad games every Friday night. We're doing a green and a white game every Friday night. It's getting pretty competitive. We're actually going to have to bring out a referee this game, because it's the last two. The guys are competing for position, which is really neat. And the guys have done a tremendous job of making that environment competitive. But we do want to play somebody else. And so they're excited that there is a return date. We're looking to return to campus early January, go through some of the testing protocols at that point, obviously see what the impact of the end of the year is, the flu season, all those things that, departments are considering. And then we'll play our first game February 3rd. And that's an exciting time for us.
How have you managed that fall and the length of it? I mean, it feels like your season normally in the fall is a sprint. Like everybody gets to campus, you practice a little bit, and then you're playing games, and then it's over, almost in the blink of an eye. And then even in the spring, you're playing other competition. How have you managed to keep that competition level high without the guys, going at each other's necks for several months here of only competing against each other?
Yeah, my main concern was burnout.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to make sure that they were tipping, on the right side by the time we got to November. So rather than train, they went from an environment where they weren't training at all, or if they were fortunate to be able to play with a summer team, you're training 2 to 3 times, a week, and maybe playing a scrimmage game. But when you come back into our environment, start training every single day at a high level with expectations and so forth, there's going to be an eventual burnout for everyone, but including the younger players, the freshmen, the sophomores. No one was used to this, but certainly for them, their muscle memory wasn't quite yet developed. So what we decided to split the week. So we went Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays were a fitness day with our strength and conditioning coach. So it's actually a day for them not to hear or even at times see the coaches to kind of get a break a little bit in a way, but still get work done. And then we went back to Thursday and Friday. So we went 4 days a week, really intense. One day specifically focusing on their fitness, and then they have 2 days off on the weekend, which I thought was really important also.
Yeah, that's huge, because of how the tempting thing is to just go and get the guy. You've got him there, and let's work, let's get better. But we don't even have to say unprecedented times. Everybody's heard that enough times by now. But it's even not in a COVID environment. It feels like over the years there's been this greater emphasis and understanding on balance when it comes to working with student athletes and letting them have their moments to themselves to recharge, right, mentally and physically.
Well, that's something that we've learned the hard way during those spring seasons, right? We have a season, either we're super excited because of how the fall ended and we want to carry over, or we're not happy at all and we really want to, turn things up a little bit and get into the spring season and training, get better. And we felt a burnout. By the time you started in January, by mid to late February, early March, the guys are like needing to go on spring break, and they really need that break. And when they come back, it's just not the same sometimes. So I think it was a lesson learned, and we try to kind of dive back into that experience and recreate, this semester. Another thing that we did, we try not to overcomplicate it too much. So we broke up even our training days. We broke them up into 2 tactical training days. One day was a competition day. So we have what we call like our J League, where the teams have, this is something really creative that Coach Tom Buckner came up with from his previous institution. We picked 3 leaders, 3 captains ultimately. They call it their general managers, GMs. They do a lottery themselves with a salary cap. And your value is your class grade. So every freshman comes in at a 25K value, sophomore's 50, and he goes up in scale. So you have to draft based on a salary cap. But as you play that competitive game on Tuesday, and it's really all competition, it's no coaching whatsoever. they get after each other. Now we have to ref the game to kind of keep things controlled, because it could get out of control, because it
Yeah.
matters for them, right?
Oh yeah.
Because there's a personal standing. So every time you win, your personal points go up, and then it goes into your team points as well. But the cool thing is, which is keeping it fresh, if your team won a lot, and if you had a goal scorer that scored a lot of goals, or a goalkeeper that was hot on that day, then his personal value goes up, your team value increases, you might be over the salary cap. So then you have to trade.
That's
So
wild.
every week we had, there's always an adjustment on each team, and that guy got traded for sometimes for unfortunate reasons, but he kept it fresh a lot. And then about a month into, when we felt the guy's competition level was high, their fitness level was high, we started playing our inter squad scrimmages. So we really broke up our week, I think, well balanced. 2 heavy training days, a competition day with no coaching, and on Friday night lights, something they could look forward to and just get out there and play. So we would split them into different teams. We made it competitive. It said, listen, we're going to try to create an environment as if this were a real game on a Friday night. So we're going to select, quote unquote, a starting team and a team that needs to fight to get into that position. Man, that's all I needed to say. Guys wanted that jersey, and guys were fighting for it, and they didn't want to let go. And obviously, from a coaching standpoint, we wanted to see different chemistries and different teams, different lines playing together. So there's some of that went into it. But ultimately, the decision on how we made those, that green and white team based on how we would play against an outside opponent that weekend. And we made that very, very clear to the players as well.
That's awesome. So many different, unique, creative ways to feed into a little bit of that hyper competitiveness that fuels all these guys, and then also a chance for you all to learn, and for them to learn about each other in the same way.
Well, we made the week about that, right? We kept talking about Friday night. So we were training with a purpose for Friday night. And we would ask our players, did you think that you broke into the starting group, or do you think you did yourself a disservice this week? Where do you stand? So when we get to Friday night, you're still going to have an opportunity to play in a regular season environment. If you're not on the starting 11 or the first 2-3 guys off the bench, your opportunity might be limited. Here, you still get that opportunity. So it's not like all hope is lost, but it certainly was a way to keep them engaged throughout the week and keep the competitive environment high, which was a really big priority for us to make sure that we were uber competitive when it came to the end of the semester.
All right, so you mentioned it earlier, 2 Friday nights left, 2 Friday night lights competitions, if you will, and then the fall practice period is over. The students go home for the what is now kind of a winter term that is existing this year at JU. And then when can they come back, and how are you trying to work with them over the break so that they don't go from 100 to 0 back to 100?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have about 7 weeks of break, which is a pretty lengthy period of time. So we'll come back early January, about the 4th or the 6th, kind of still, finalizing those dates based on when we can test and so forth. But yeah, their last opportunity to train with us will be November 12th, which would be next Thursday. And then they have the rest of November, mid-November, and all of December to come back. And obviously, you're talking about 2 different holiday seasons, right? Yeah. Some of our guys go up north, and some of them are staying on campus. Some of our international students are 2 Europeans and South Americans. They're deciding to stay on campus or stay in the Jacksonville area to train, to get the most out of it, and honestly to avoid the risk of not being able to come back into the country.
Yeah.
So we have to be really mindful of the conditions that they're going to go back to. We have 5 Canadians on the team. They're going to go back to Canada in heavy winter, right? Mm-hmm. We have 3 kids from Montreal and 2 from Toronto. Their training situation when they go back is going to be limited. It's not like our Florida winter, right? That we still get to go outside and it's 70 degrees by 3 o'clock. So I think what's worked out really well this semester, we've been really mindful with our sports medicine staff, with the strength and conditioning staff. We have one of our coaches, his expertise in sports performance, and we really work together on make sure that we are getting better and better, educating our student athletes as best as possible of that 7-week break of what's going to happen. We do several fitness assessments to just kind of gauge where we are. So that'll be kind of the last thing that we do before we leave, is to gauge where they are physically, and then create programs for them based on their circumstance and their situation on how they can maintain that or even grow to the next level. Because by the time they come back in January 4th, we do have a level of expectation that they've looked after their body. So So I think it's a lot of individual conversations, communication, but certainly setting a standard of the sacrifice that is going to be required for a lot of them in those holiday seasons to not just, let loose because of all the work that they've done now in the last 3 months will be in vain.
Right. Let's not come back a couple of belt holes looser after this break.
Just coaches are allowed, but not players.
Yeah.
We better.
Well, when it comes to the makeup of this team, what stands out about this group that you all have assembled for this season?
Yeah, greedy. It's a greedy. It's a team that wants it. It's a team that we're not having to. One thing that I'm telling everyone, we're not having to convince them to work hard. And I know it sounds weird. Like, why would you have to convince 18 to 22-year-old Division I athletes to work hard? But yeah, those are a lot of those psyches that we talked about of when is the season? Where do I fit in? I'm a young player. Are we going to have a season? I'm a senior. What is going to happen after the season? So there's a lot of things that you really do try to kind of keep them engaged and motivated going in the same direction. But this group, we haven't had to do that. It's been a greedy team that they want to win at everything that they're doing. And, we missed the postseason last year. It was the first time, in my time here as a coach that we missed the postseason coming off the edge of a couple, ASUN championship games. And so some of those guys that experience, which are going to be our juniors and seniors now, they experienced the taste of postseason. They experienced the taste of a final. And we came short on those 2 finals, but we have guys on this roster that are leaders now, and they were young players at that time. And they experienced what that felt. They want that back. And they also experienced not being there. And that experience alone is creating the environment for us. And we're not having to convince them that they got to come out. They got to do extra work. One thing's been really cool this semester, Scott, that doing the extra has become cool. Right?
That's awesome.
It's not the guy sucking up or trying to come early to practice just to show in front of the coach. In fact, if you're not at practice early, if you're not doing something extra, whether it's video or extra work with the coaches or by yourself, you're starting to become the outlier, and not in a good way now.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to give credit to the players and to the leadership, and a lot of the younger players are really taking that role on as well. Something I've always wanted can work hard, can work hard and do extra, just be part of our norm, be part of our DNA. And working hard right now is cool, and that's a pretty neat thing to see.
That's awesome. And you certainly hope that it pays off. I mean, at the end of the day, just getting out there and getting a chance to play starting in February is going to be a big reward in and of itself. And I'm excited for you all. Hopefully you finish off the fall strong here, a good winter break, and ready to go in this kind of unprecedented season, but nonetheless ready to get it rolling again and hopefully make it back to that ASUN postseason.
Yeah, that's the ultimate goal, right? How we go about it, we go with a lot of character, with a lot of hard work. We have a very specific style of a play that we want to institute, which this semester has benefited us to be able to have time and work with a complex way of playing. So we're better because of it, but we're not losing sight of our goal, which is to win a championship. And I think the players are hungry for that, and they're excited. So hopefully we'll be talking a lot in the spring in preparation for an ASUN final and eventually an NCAA berth.
He is Mauricio Ruiz, the head men's soccer coach at Jacksonville University. Thanks so much for joining me here today on Dolphin Tales.
Thanks, Scott.